Welcome to Talking Wildfire with Michael Hill. Today, following on with our educational discussions on prescribed firing operations in the United States, I'll tell you a bit about the annual burning conducted for wildlife, and afterwards we will deep dive into our ignition tactics and techniques. I have had the honor to burn many times on these wildlife habitat burns, assisting the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and here I will share their burning operations with you. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service uses controlled or prescribed burns in selected grass fields and marshes to improve habitat for migratory birds and protect wetlands from ecological decline. These fires are carefully planned and carried out under specific weather conditions so they remain safe and beneficial to wildlife. Officially, according to the service, prescribed burns remove dead vegetation, reduce dangerous fuel buildup, and control invasive plants such as phragmites and cattails that can choke wetlands and crowd out native species. Burning also opens feeding and nesting areas for waterfowl, shorebirds, and wading birds. In coastal marshes along the eastern United States, prescribed fire is especially important because many wetlands naturally evolved with periodic fire. Without it, thick layers of old grasses and invasive reeds can block sunlight and reduce open water habitat needed by ducks, geese, herons, rails, and other migratory birds. At places such as Edwin B. Forsyth National Wildlife Refuge in New Jersey, refuge managers use late winter burns to restore native grasses and maintain healthy salt marsh ecosystems before spring migration begins. These habitat projects are closely tied to the migration patterns of birds along the U.S. East Coast, known as the Atlantic Flyway. The Atlantic Flyway stretches from the Arctic regions of Canada through the eastern United States and into the Caribbean and South America. Each spring and fall, millions of birds travel this route, stopping in coastal marshes, estuaries, and wildlife refuges to rest and feed. Species commonly using the flyway include snow geese, tundra swans, Atlantic brant, mallards, black ducks, sandpipers, and many songbirds. Wetlands in states such as Maine, New Jersey, Maryland, Virginia, and the Carolinas provide critical stopover habitat where birds can rebuild energy reserves during migration. Migration timing along the East Coast generally follows seasonal temperature changes. In autumn, birds move south as northern lakes and marshes freeze, often peaking between September and November. In spring, the movement reverses as birds travel northward to breeding grounds between March and May. Weather patterns strongly influence migration intensity. Cold fronts can push large waves of waterfowl southward almost overnight. Maintaining healthy marshes through prescribed fire helps ensure these birds continue to find food, shelter, and nesting habitat throughout their long journeys. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service uses several controlled firing tactics when conducting prescribed burns in grass fields and marshes closely aligned with weather. These techniques are designed to safely manage fire behavior while protecting wildlife habitat and nearby communities. One common method is the backing fire. In this tactic, crews ignite vegetation along a fire break or road and allow the fire to move slowly against the wind. Because the flames travel more slowly, the fire burns cooler and is easier to control. Backing fires are often used near sensitive habitats or property boundaries. Another tactic is the head fire, where crews ignite vegetation so the fire moves with the wind. Head fires burn faster and hotter, quickly removing thick grass buildup and invasive plants. Managers may use this approach in large open fields where rapid burning is needed to restore habitat conditions for migratory birds. Fire crews also use flanking fires, which move parallel to the wind direction. These fires help widen the burned area gradually and connect sections of the prescribed burn safely. Flanking fires are often combined with backing fires to maintain control around marsh edges and grasslands. In larger wetland restoration projects, managers may use a strip head fire technique. Crews ignite several parallel strips of grass in sequence. Each strip burns into the area already burned by the previous strip, reducing flame intensity while still covering large areas efficiently. This method is common in coastal marshes because it balances safety with effective vegetation management. Fire crews also use flanking fires, which move parallel to the wind direction. These fires help widen the burned area gradually and connect sections of the prescribed burn safely. Flanking fires are often combined with backing fires to maintain control around marsh edges and grasslands. In larger wetland restoration projects, managers may use a strip head fire technique. Crews ignite several parallel strips of grass in sequence. Each strip burns into the area already burned by the previous strip, reducing flame intensity while still covering large areas efficiently. This method is common in coastal marshes because it balances safety with effective vegetation management. To carry out these burns, trained personnel use tools such as drip torches filled with a diesel gasoline fuel mixture to ignite grasses in controlled lines. Burn bosses monitor wind speed, humidity, fuel moisture, and smoke movement throughout the operation. Fire breaks, water tanks, and suppression crews are positioned nearby in case conditions change. These firing tactics help maintain open grasslands and marshes along the Atlantic Flyway, supporting migration habitat for ducks, geese, shorebirds, and many other species that depend on healthy coastal wetlands. Prescribed fire crews use specific ignition patterns to control how quickly a fire spreads, how hot it burns, and how much vegetation is removed. In grass fields and marshes managed by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, these ignition patterns are carefully chosen based on wind, humidity, fuel conditions, and wildlife objectives. Backing fire pattern. The ignition begins along a downwind fire break, allowing flames to creep slowly into the wind. This produces shorter flames, lower heat, and more complete fuel consumption near control lines. Backing fires are commonly used near roads, levees, or sensitive marsh habitat because they are easier to manage and create less risk of escape. Head fire pattern. Crews ignite a line of fire on the upwind side so the flames move rapidly with the wind. This creates taller flames and higher intensity. Head fires are useful when managers need to quickly remove dense grasses, shrubs, or invasive reeds across large open areas. Strip head ignition. This is one of the most common prescribed fire ignition patterns in grasslands. After establishing a secure backing fire, crews ignite additional parallel strips progressively upwind. Each strip burns toward the previously burned area, reducing flame length while efficiently covering large sections of land. The spacing between strips determines fire intensity. Flanking fire pattern. Ignition lines are set parallel to the wind direction, so flames spread sideways across the field. Flanking fires usually burn with moderate intensity and are often used to connect burned sections safely during larger operations. Ring fire pattern crews ignite around the perimeter of a burn unit first, then allow fire to move inward from all sides. This pattern can quickly increase fire intensity near the center because heat and wind currents combine. It is generally used only under carefully controlled conditions in larger management areas. Spot fire. Ignition. Small isolated ignition points are placed across a field or marsh. As each spot fire grows, it eventually merges with nearby spots. This pattern creates variable burn intensity and can produce a mosaic effect, leaving some patches unburned for wildlife cover and habitat diversity. Chevron or V-pattern ignition. Sometimes used in marsh restoration, this pattern directs fire movement inward at angles, helping crews manage smoke dispersion and flame direction in narrow wetland corridors. Fire managers often combine several ignition patterns during one operation. For example, a burn may start with backing fires for safety, transition into strip head firing for efficiency, and finish with spot ignition to create habitat variation. These methods help maintain healthy wetlands and grasslands along the Atlantic Flyway, where millions of migratory birds depend on open feeding and nesting habitat each year.
We're doing this for all of you. If you like what we're doing, please give us a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and leave a comment below. See you next time.